To my father, what's dead and buried is over and done with. I couldn't even talk about her anymore. Couldn't have her pictures out, nothing. Caleb draws in a quivering breath. But I grew up, got married, had you. He pushes my hair back. But then your mother, she only got to be with you for a few months, and then she was gone too. Fresh tears pour down over his cheeks. You know what I used to think? I shake my head. If I could still see the people I've lost, it wouldn't be so hard. If I could just see their faces, even if they couldn't talk to me, I could survive it. But it was knowing they were underground. And I could never look at them again. That's the thing I can't take. He wipes his bloodshot eyes. When you disappeared, I swear that was it for me, Daniel. I thought, I'm just going to make myself sleep. I'll make myself sleep, and when I wake up, we'll be together. Make yourself sleep? I want to ask, and I'm also afraid to ask. But something stopped me. I had this feeling deep inside. This feeling that I'd find you. He wraps his arms around me again, squeezing tight. And now I have. So that was an excerpt from Darkroom Etiquette by Robin Rowe. And this book, wow, this was an intense ride. This is a present tense book, which anybody who knows me, I struggle with. Very, very difficult thing for me to do. But I tore through this book. This was just intense. It was beautifully written. It was incredibly dark for a young adult, and it dealt with so many different traumas, and it was just absolutely gorgeous. I loved every page. I loved every bit of it. So let's go ahead and get into Darkroom Etiquette. So welcome back to Plot Twist. I have a book review for you today. We are reviewing Darkroom Etiquette by Robin Rowe. And yeah, so as I said in my intro, I loved it. It was wonderful. The characters are so complex and intense, and you really get to see into their heads. Our main character is Sayer, which I know is a weird name. It gets brought up, don't worry about it. He is a rich kid, and he's one of the most prominent rich kids in town. To the point where if he gets stopped by police while he's speeding, they tend to just let him go because they fear repercussion. Which is, you know, annoying a little bit, but it kind of makes him a bit of a dick. So Sayer is kind of just going through the motions of life at the moment. We open up with his first days of, I believe it's junior high, that he's in, and he's just kind of going through the motions. He's got his friends. His friends are all kind of jerks, except for one. He kind of wants Sayer to get away from the jerks and, you know, be a normal, kind, caring kid. But Sayer is at that point, too, where he's trying to figure out peer pressure and trying to figure out which peers he wants to identify himself with. So very typical teenage stuff. Every kid goes through that kind of stuff. So he is going through his first days. He's just kind of letting things happen. He's seeing his friends bully other kids, and he doesn't do anything to stop them. And one particular event happens that really sets him off. He doesn't necessarily go off on people, but it is rubbing him the wrong way. He doesn't like what happened. He doesn't know entirely what happened, and I think that's what bothers him the most about it. And he feels incredibly guilty about it, but he doesn't really know how to process those feelings. One day after a party, he and his friends go out of town. What they're doing is they're on a field trip, and Sayer has his own car, so he follows the bus to go onto this field trip. Why he doesn't have a class, I'm not sure. There's something about him just skipping it for whatever reason. I think it's for like extra credit that he just decides to go with the other class. I'm not sure what's going on there. And after the field trip, he drives his friends back. I know at my school that would have never happened. But at this school, I guess, you know, he's rich, he gets to do whatever he wants. So they get a little lost though. So they stop at this diner and just trying to, you know, get something to eat. It's like 10 o'clock, midnight, something like that. So he's getting they're all getting very hungry, so they just stop at a diner, get something to eat, try and orientate themselves. Following his friend's lead, his other friends, these are the nicer friends of his that he's with in this diner. So he talks to this waitress, and he's rather rude to her, actually, and incredibly rude. To the point where his friend Luke speaks up and says, "Hey, you're being a jerk." Sayer does not take this well, and he decides to leave. So he leaves his friends there at the diner, he takes his car, he goes. Halfway down the road, he's realized that he's left his phone, and he starts to kind of feel bad about leaving his friends behind as well, so he turns around and hopes to at least get his phone back. He's not entirely certain if he's going to pick up his friends or not. And then a pickup truck attempts to run him off the road a couple of times. He's getting increasingly more frustrated about this. He starts speeding, things like that. And then he finally does get run off the road and he crashes. Well, the truck driver comes out and asks him, are you okay? And things like that. Everything seems to be fairly normal. Sayer is being kind of a jerk about it, but he's mostly just annoyed that his convertible is messed up, probably totaled. And then all of a sudden, the pickup driver takes out a syringe and injects it into Sayer's neck, and the world goes black. And that's where the story really starts. And we find out that this man has kidnapped Sayer, and now Sayer has to find a way to get free. And from there, it is just psychological torment, physical torment, emotional torment. It's insane. It is dark, it is deep, it makes you question things. It makes you question what's real. Not to the extent that I would have wanted it to, I think. We don't have... We have definitive answers on a few things, and I think if we didn't have quite those definitive answers, then it would have made us question a lot more about what Sayer's reality actually is. But I don't think it took away from it very much. So like I said, it was just incredible. The kidnapper, Caleb, is an incredibly complex person. He's been through his fair share of trauma as well, and it is pulled out through his actions and how he treats Sayer. I keep wanting to say Sawyer. Sayer's just such a weird name. I'm not going to get into too much of why he's been kidnapped, because the reveal of that is incredibly fun, actually. But yeah, so we get a lot of interesting mental breakdowns that occur. And another big portion of the story is how Sayer changes during this kidnapping, and it's just incredible to watch. I say watch, but to read, and it's beautifully written. I was really surprised that the present tense didn't bother me so much this time. And actually, since then, I have read more present tense books. So I think that kind of got me over whatever blockage I had with them, which I'm really, really happy about. Unfortunately, I can't really talk about this book without spoilers. It is just the little bit I gave you just now in the description. It gives you a bit of what's going on in Caleb's mind, the kidnapper, but that does not explain everything in detail. You can infer a lot of stuff, but just to go through the emotions, to go through the process of how we get to that point, is just really necessary to understand fully what he's talking about. But yeah, so and the little bit I talked about in the beginning of the book, up to his kidnapping, that's not, I would say, a spoiler at all. It says in the back of the book that it's about him being kidnapped, and having to survive it, or attempt to survive it. So yeah, I can't really talk about it much without going into spoilers. So this might be a book that I will attempt more of a deep dive into eventually. because I think it really deserves it. This is a wonderful book. If you, I've done this before in my Goodreads review, but I'll say it again. If you have been through trauma, if your friends have been through trauma, anybody you know has been through trauma, this book is great because you will understand what's happening. It may not be the same trauma that you went through, but it'll be, the emotions will still be there. There are a few, I don't want to say trigger warnings, because nothing, I'll say, that terrible happens. Um, but I will say that the if you have been through trauma before, it can get pretty heavy in how it affects you daily. So yeah, I would definitely just be cautious. But that surprised me, actually, for a young adult book. I was very impressed by how dense that was for a young adult. You don't see that too often. Normally, with this sort of thing, you would see that more in a new adult book or a regular adult book. But yeah, I absolutely loved it. It was beautiful writing. I have another book of Robin Rowe, or another book by Robin Rowe. I'm very eager to get into that. That one's a lot shorter as well, so we'll see how that goes. But for right now, I'm busy with other books. So yeah, that would be my review of Darkroom Etiquette by Robin Rowe. Highly recommend. 5 out of 5 book. Beautiful writing, beautiful characters, intense moments, incredibly emotional. So yeah, if that sounds like your sort of thing, definitely go pick it up. And yeah, that'll do it for today. So thank you so much for joining us here on Plot Twist. I hope you have a wonderful day and keep reading.